call the Willmar City Council meeting to order for Monday, May 16th. Roll call.
Mayor Calvin,
Here.
Councilmember Fagerly, Osmus. Here. Butterfield.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Osk.
Here.
Davis.
Here.
Plowman.
Here.
Nelson. Here. 8 present, 1 absent.
Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance Please note that Councilmember Fagerly has an excused absence. Are there any proposed additions or deletions to the agenda as presented? Staff?
Number 10, the Willmar Meals on Wheels discussion. Ms. Nolting is out sick, so she will not be added to the June 6th agenda.
Okay, so remove item number 10 and move that to the June 6th agenda. Councilmember Nelson. Councilmember Nelson.
We had talked about Mr. Manzer making an update on the storm, and you said
He'll
it
be
was somewhere, but I don't know
yes.
where it is, so.
He'll be making it right before the discussion of the presentation of Steve Pep's Fest.
So what are we calling
Number
that?
14.
We asked for just a update on the storm, the water and the storm, and just what Public Works have been going through on, just a storm.
Public Works update?
Yes.
Okay. And so move those items up, and then that will become item number 13. Okay?
Yep.
Then we'll be back on track on 14. Anything else? Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amended budget, removing number 10, item number 10, moving that to the June 6th meeting, and adding a Public Works update in agenda item number 13.
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion been made and seconded to approve the amended agenda. Discussion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That carries. Next, we have consent items. Ms. Thompson.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, on tonight's consent agenda, we have for council's approval the City Council minutes of May 2nd, Willmar Municipal Utilities Commission minutes of May 9th, accounts payable report for April 23 through May 1st, Fire Department training of the house burn, resolution for an application for Main Street, Minnesota grant, a resolution approving MnDOT Master Partnership Contract for routine services, application for Rice Hospital Board of Wayne Nelson, building report for the month of April 2022, and for council's information, application for Human Rights Commission of Alan Clark, and an application for the Economic Development Commission Operations Board of Abubakar Gal.
Council, what are your wishes?
Motion to approve the consented items.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. And again, just as a reminder to the council, the EDC Operations Board, the mayor brings that to the council then votes on it, but it goes to the joint ops of the commission to approve. So this is not an approval process. This is simply moving their name forward to the next step, just so everybody understands that. There was some confusion a few years ago on that. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis. Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next, we have open forum. The first person who wishes to speak is Mr. Willie Gonzalez. Willie, go ahead and just let us know if you reside within the city of Willmar or not, and the subject matter you wish to speak with. And then the city clerk has a timer, and so when that timer goes off, you'll actually hear a little sound. It's not like it used to be. It's not a rah or anything like that. But there will be a little bit of a sound, and then just finish the sentence you're on or the thought that you're on. Don't start a new thought if the time has expired. Okay? Thank
No
you. Go
bells,
ahead.
right? No bells?
No
Guys
bells,
are
no bells.
Sitting over
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
Okay.
no bells.
All right. Willie Gonzalez, I reside here in Willmar, Minnesota. I'm one of the business owners downtown at Spurs. I wanted to thank the city of Willmar to letting me getting approved Cinco de Mayo celebration over the weekend, which I'm very proud. Thank you guys. And it was a great turnout of events. And I, talking about events, wanted to say that as the city of Willmar here, we need to open up a little bit more to do more events. And it was kind of scary because of me. Everything that wanted to be right went wrong, and everything still kept going the way it's supposed to go. Nobody noticed. Thank you for some counselor members to help out. Wish you guys would join in next year to help out. If the mayor's still here, or the future mayor. And talking about events, wanted to say that we need more events. We need to bring more people to this town from these other towns, like Olivia, Murdoch, and opening up a little bit more for events. Of course, we gotta take precautions of what we need: officers, volunteers, to make it better, to make it right. I know I'm pretty close to the community. I talk to a lot of people, and they want to do more events like car shows and like it used to be. But we kind of close doors a lot. I know we have to jump into a lot of hoops, which I'm one of those that I will do it. Marathon, I'll do a marathon just to get things going and help out this town. And on that point of events, there's an event coming up, MMA, and I used to do that a lot. I love it, love it. Boxing, I know it's kind of, a lot of people go, you don't have a brain with that. It's not that. Actually, MMA is a little bit more safer than boxing. We do need events like that, bring up the crowd. Of course, like I said, it has to be maintained right. Like our officers all the time. I believe in that. And I think some of the guys that passed by the Cinco de Mayo and helped out, some of the officers were there, which I like, because, things happen. Always things going to happen. And there's the bill. Well, thank you, City of Willmar, for the Cinco de Mayo. Hopefully next year you guys participate for me. Thank you, guys.
Thank you for your comments, appreciate it, thank you. Next, we have Mr. Brock Larson, and Mr. Larson, just tell us whether you reside within the city or not. And my understanding is that you and the next speaker have agreed to a 2.5-minute time frame.
Yes, sir.
So your time frame will be a little bit less because that's the new policy we have. So, and you met with the city administrator prior to this and agreed to the 2.5 minutes, correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
So my name is Brock Larson. I do not reside in Willmar. I was promoted the fights here the spring, last fall, and it was a huge success. We had local guys from Willmar here that got a chance to fight in front of their hometown and chance to make a little more money because they all make money, a percentage of all their ticket sales. So they get a chance to make that money. And working with the community and working with the Civic Center was a really good experience. So we obviously wanted to come back. And then when we went to come back, you guys changed the rules on us. And you wanted a local liquor license, which I understand the theory behind that, but the part that you guys might not understand is my brother is a caterer and we're one business. It's a separate license, obviously, in the catering license. Just like when I get my promoter license from the state of Minnesota, it's me, it's not my brother. So, but we're still under the one CFX umbrella company. And that profit that you make from the alcohol is part of how these guys get paid. And I mean, our hotel bill was $10,000 just because we house people for 2 days. They come in for the weigh-in, and then the next day is the fights. So our hotel bill alone is quite a bit. So just to make that money off just ticket sales alone is a hard nail to kind of bite. So that being said, I know we're on a limit here, so I know Cody wants to get a couple words in, but that's kind of where I'm coming from. So just appreciate your time, and thank you guys.
Thank you for your comments. Next, we have Cody Milhausen. I think I said that right. And again, the same thing, you guys agreed to split your time at 2.5 minutes apiece, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so and staff will have you at 2.5 minutes, and then you'll hear a similar sound to what Mr. Gonzalez heard.
Okay, perfect. I'm Cody Millison. I'm originally from Willmar. I live in Clare City now. I graduated in the class 11. Actually, Julie was my dare officer back in the day. I work for Keurig Dr. Pepper. I'm in Willmar 4 days a week. I also coach wrestling at the high school. Very important to me. I got 3 beautiful daughters at home. I'm also a professional fighter. And I was off for 3 years, came back when we had the fights in Willmar, and I sold probably 80% of the tickets there, and it was a huge, huge success. We did so well, the numbers that we did, and bringing everybody together. I mean, you got every race, Sheriff Holeen coming to watch me fight, everybody. I mean, it was a huge success. We got 5 other guys here that graduated from Willmar that are either professional or amateur, doing very successful in the fight game. And it's very important to us to fight in front of our hometown. There's not many people that get opportunities to do that. Usually you got to travel. Most of my fights have been out in Mystic Lake Casino. And I just strongly urge you guys to please reconsider that liquor license with Brock Larson and his brother. Is very important to me, both physically, financially. I get paid to fight, and they got a licensing for injuries and hotels and the promotion license and everything that goes along with it. If we don't have the liquor to pay for that, we can't. He's losing money to host an event. So I strongly I hope you guys will reconsider that. I'm always a strong advocate in my wrestlers following their dreams, and us guys, some of them wrestled with me, some of them didn't. But we're just trying to follow a dream, and I urge my wrestlers to do that all the time. Don't go out, if you believe in something, go with all your heart, and try to follow through with it. I work in Willmar 4 days a week, and I'm getting harassed every day about when the next event is and how much fun they had, and they hope they keeps building, and it just was a great event, and the community was strongly behind us, and they loved it. I mean, you ask around, people know,
Thank you for your comments.
So, thank you very much.
You bet, thank you. Ms. Valiant, can you do some research on that? I know that my understanding is that the request was withdrawn.
No, I don't believe we've received any request yet.
So the first request that we tabled for more information,
That was-
trying to find a local vendor.
That was
and
for
then-
the April one?
Correct. Right.
Yeah.
But the council didn't deny it. It was withdrawn by the applicant, correct?
Yes.
Correct. Okay, so just make sure that I need a refresher, so can I get a brief on it, on what the rules are again, please?
Yep.
Okay, so just make sure and send it to the rest of the council too. But I think the issue was, it needs to be a City of Willmar liquor license holder and to be the one that does it by state statute.
You're correct.
So it's a state statute, it's not a Willmar statute.
Both.
So,
It's
Mr.
both. It's
Scott,
actually in our charter, if I'm not mistaken.
Mayor, members of the council, I had been asked about this previously, and there is a local ordinance that requires the license holder to be licensed by the city of Willmar. That's also consistent with state statute, which requires that for events in city-owned facilities like the Civic Center.
Thank you. And it's different if it's a privately owned space.
Correct.
Correct. Right. Thank you. And then can someone send us a brief on that? Thank you. Next, we have welcome of Mr. Kyle Box. I understand he had a somewhat eventful day from what I heard. So, Ms. Valiant.
Good afternoon, council. Yes, we'd like to reintroduce Mr. Kyle Box here. He's now our new city operations director. And yes, we had a very full day today, and I think he's going to have a really full day tomorrow and going forward even. So, Kyle, you want to just give a brief update as to how you're doing and what brought you here? We're happy to have you.
Yeah, well, Mr. Mayor,
Welcome.
members of the city council, thank you. It's really exciting to be here tonight before you all and to be back and have accepted the position. I'm really excited. I had a full day today, met a lot of people, shook a lot of hands, and I don't know if I remember any of them. So hopefully we'll start to put names to faces here in over the next few weeks. And meeting with the city administrator today, we overviewed some projects that we'll be focusing on here right away, and just kind of getting familiar with city operations. So excited to be here and looking forward to what's to come.
Great, great. I was, it was fun to go into your office and see you kind of scrambling there, getting your computer set up this morning and your cell phone and all of the different things you have to get into an office. And so, so welcome. Council, I don't know if anybody has any comments they want to make, but welcome. We're glad you're here. So,
Yes, thank you.
So, excellent. Thank you. I know you'll have your hands full. Next, we have a rescheduled public hearing for Midwest Technology Campus abatement. Mr. Walker, our Planning and Development Director.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So just the overview. Midwest Technology Campus Management Company applied for and was granted a 10-year property tax abatement for 8 parcels on the site of the former state hospital in the fall of 2015. The terms of the abatement stated that the Midwest Technology Campus would create a minimum of 175 full-time workers and spend $8 million on capital projects and improvements by December 31st, 2025, not to exceed a total abatement of $416,000. To date, the Midwest Technology Campus Management Company has exceeded the full-time workers and capital investment thresholds and has received a total property tax abatement of $265,000, $620. The Midwest Technology Campus is now pursuing an abatement from the city of Willmar for 3 additional buildings on the eastern side of the campus. On February 22nd, 2022, council authorized staff to start reviewing the abatement process for the Midwest Technology Campus request and its project. And staff has reviewed the Midwest project and finances, and in order for the council to grant or deny the abatement, council must set an abatement public hearing on, I guess it was on May 16th, but due to not meeting the legal 10-day publishing notice deadline, staff is recommending resetting the abatement public hearing for Monday, June 6, 2022 council meeting. That way we can meet the 10-day legal mandate. Okay. So this is a rescheduling of the public hearing for the abatement.
And the abatement then will be heard on June 6th.
Yep.
Okay.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Discussion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next, we have consider declaring cost to be assessed, order preparation of assessment roll, and call for an assessment hearing for June 6th. Jared, our consulting engineer.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This council item is related to the assessment roll associated with the 2022 street improvements project. As you are aware, reconstruction projects were previously awarded. Mill and overlay projects are the next agenda item on your agenda this evening, and staff is recommending that a public hearing be set for the assessment process. One item that I would like to note is that based on staff review of bonding timelines, things of that nature, we're recommending that the date of June 6th be modified to August 15th in your agenda item this evening. So if council is inclined to call for a public hearing, staff would request that we modify that date. And with that, I'll answer any questions that you might have.
So why are we moving out that far? That's a bit alarming to me.
Yeah, so ultimately, the request for the change in the date, certainly we could adjust that. Ultimately, when we send the public hearing notices out, we need to identify the interest rate associated with the assessments. And we do not have that interest rate at this point, but certainly anticipate getting an estimate for that shortly. So that's ultimately the reason, because when the public hearing is noticed, the amount for each individual property needs to be identified, as well as the assessment rate, what the assessments will be charged interest on. So that's the reasoning.
I'm still a bit confused. So we don't know, we don't have the bond rate?
At this point, the bond interest rate is only an estimate because the bonds have not been received, or the interest rate hasn't been identified associated with the bonds, right?
Okay, so does this do anything with setting our project back?
No.
Because, I mean, we were going gangbusters, and I don't recall us ever having this issue before.
Yeah, so ultimately, and that's a great point, Mayor. Ultimately, staff has been working very hard to create efficiencies in this process. And one of those efficiencies that we're gaining with this process is that the contracts come in, we evaluate them versus the preliminary engineering report in terms of cost. All of the projects have come in great, actually, for all the recons and the mill and overlays. So we're moving those construction projects forward. The bonding will follow those projects. So the projects will be started. Actually, a couple of them want to start next week. So it's actually helping accelerate the schedule rather than delaying it. So.
Okay. Councilman Erasmus.
You asked some of the question I was going to about if there was
Additional
going to
questions.
be any delays, but with interest rates going up, how is that going to affect our cost?
Yeah, ultimately, so Steve and I, or Finance Director Okins and I have talked about that, and we're going to be in touch with the bonding agents tomorrow morning, in fact, and get an estimate on those. Certainly, if we can adjust that schedule, we would, but that's the best estimate of date in terms of council authorization, rating calls, things of that nature, so.
Additional comments, Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. What I'm remembering is we had something like this last year, because I remember asking the question, what's our exposure here with not having the assessment thing done before we actually are, I mean, we've approved the bids, right? And so what's our exposure here with the delay in the assessment, and if I remember correctly, I'm not sure there is, other than I don't know that we would change anyone's assessments. So is there a downside to this, I guess, is my question.
I think the difference last year is that last year we awarded moving the project forward. I think we had the numbers, but we didn't know, we moved them forward within the time that it could be appealed. So there's an appeal time as well.
So speaking in terms of the risk, the preliminary assessment amounts have already been shared with the public, or with the residents on the project. We had the improvement hearing last fall, and so we gave that range of assessments associated with each individual property. I believe there were approximately 2 people that showed up to that meeting. We held an open house. We received minimal calls since then. Based on the bid prices that we did receive, and we've calculated the assessments, and those assessments are actually below what the preliminary estimates were for assessments. So in terms of risk or exposure, this isn't uncommon for communities to move their projects forward, because otherwise they're in a position where construction doesn't start till July, and then we're fighting weather at the end of the year and things of that nature. So I think actually the risk is by delaying construction, then you have a risk of getting your project completed. In terms of delaying the assessment hearing, ultimately the county requires that the assessment amounts are certified to the county auditor in November. So anytime prior to November with the assessment hearing is more than acceptable from the terms of collecting your assessments per your policy.
Thank you.
Additional comments? So you want to push this out to, what date in August?
August 15th, that'd be your second meeting in August. Right?
Other questions or comments from council? Council, what do you want to do?
I'll make the motion to adopt resolution declaring the cost to be assessed and setting in a hearing on August 15th.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson. Aye. Osmus.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next, we have consideration of award of contracts for 2022 street overlay and parking lot projects and adopt as bid budgets. Mr. Vogel.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. We did receive bids on April 22nd or 27th rather for the street overlay and parking lot improvements projects. We had 3 bids that day, and we received a great bidder turnout for all of the projects. The low bidder the low bid submitted for 19th Avenue and Lakeland Drive was from OMG Midwest. The overlay of First Street was submitted by Dunick, and then the fire station or the parking lot improvements as a whole was submitted by Dunick. The item that I wanted to have a little bit of discussion about with council this evening, the First Street Northeast Business 71 and 19th Avenue Lakeland Drive Southeast are both state aid eligible projects. In order to complete both of those projects, as we had talked about during the preliminary engineering report process, that would require state aid funds to be advanced. Staff is currently working on 2023 improvement projects so that, again, we can continue to move this schedule forward efficiently. Gorton Avenue has been identified as a candidate that's in dire need of repairs. That also is a state aid road. So ultimately, we receive a certain amount of state aid every year. In order to move both 19th and First Street forward, we would need to borrow from future years of that state aid funds. Or, of course, the city always has the option to bond for the improvements, but it has been set up to utilize the state aid funds. Borrowing ahead, ultimately, what that would mean for Gorton Avenue is that wouldn't be completed for 2 to 3 years because of the borrowing ahead of the state aid funds. So I bring that to council's attention because as a staff, we've discussed this and we feel that Gorton Avenue definitely needs to be done in 2023. And it is a state aid route, and those state aid funds would be well utilized on that street. So ultimately, I guess I wanted to have a bit of a discussion about First Street because that would really delay any future state aid improvements for a couple of years because of the state aid dollars being used for that. So again, that project came in well under budget. I think it was 200 and some thousand under the estimate. And so we got really great prices on all the projects, and just wanted to make sure that we had a discussion about that one in particular. The rest of them, we recommend that you award 19th in the parking lot projects, but just wanted to have a conversation about First Street and ultimately obtain council's input as it relates to those improvements. So
One other
Ms. Valiant?
point. Thank you. One other point about First Street is that street is eligible for federal dollars. And so that's what we are trying to accomplish, is to get federal money for that street project instead. Gorton is only eligible for state fund. So if we get federal dollars, we can do First Street earlier, but Gorton would be totally out at least 3 years because we can only use state funding on that road. Otherwise, we bond totally for that project. So that's our recommendation would be to push this off because the street can wait another 2 years down the road, but we will continue trying to seek federal funding for them and then bring it back. The engineering would already be complete. It would just be a matter of having to bring it back for council to approve the project going forward. But concentrate on Gorton Avenue and get that one completely done with state aid.
Let's have some discussion before a motion. Anybody have any comments? Councilmember Nelson, followed by Alman.
If I'm hearing correctly, it's staff recommendation that we don't do this project on First Street. Is that correct?
I think our recommendation is that we would not advance those state aid monies for First Street so that they could be utilized for Gordon.
But then we wouldn't want to do First Street if we weren't using state aid money, correct?
So ultimately, what the city administrator is referring to is, and I appreciate that extra point, since First Street is on the National Highway System, First Street has access to NHS funds. I learned about that program through conversations with the district state aid engineer about a month or two ago, prior to all the authorization for the plans and specs. Nonetheless, there is a potential, it's not guaranteed obviously, but there is a potential for federal funds to be utilized on First Street, whereas Gorton Avenue, because of Gorton's classification, it's not eligible for those same funds. So I think hopefully that answers the question.
Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that I see what they're trying to do in terms of organizing funding mechanisms and reorganizing in order to make it make more sense and stretch our money further, therefore the city not having to come out of pocket for more of this street work. And I guess what it boils down to me as the more lineal footage of street we can get for our dollar, the better. And Gorton Avenue is going to have to be redone one way or another. It's already in horrendous shape. It's only going to continue to deteriorate. And I assume if it continues to get worse, it's going to be on the back of the city, Public Works, to patch and repatch and repatch and repatch until it's, and it is, I don't know if it's always an arterial route, but when there's a train covering the tracks, it is an arterial route. It becomes an arterial route, and there's literally backed up traffic through the cul-de-sac, which I'm going to note again and complain that even though it was noted to MnDOT at the time of design, that cul-de-sac or that roundabout was not properly constructed, and despite our own city engineer's concerns and concern of the subcommittee being brought up multiple times with MnDOT about that, it still remains a problem. With that said, that was my little soapbox to vent again about that, but just so that the public knows we tried, and things happen. But aside from that, when the train is there, it becomes an arterial route, not only for just getting places in town, but getting to work and getting kids to school for buses. Buses are taking that route. And especially on that corner and whatnot, the road's just getting chopped up to the point where it's going to soon be impassable. And so I believe that if I believe that staff has the city's best interest in mind in terms of, look, how can we get the most bang for our buck? How can we get the most lineal footage for the dollars that we have to spend? And so if that means getting creative and doing some extra legwork and shifting around some monies, there's an element of faith that we're going to have to throw up there, up in the air, and hope that it shakes out in our favor. But I believe probably from this perspective, that's the wise thing to do, because the road's going to need to be redone anyways. It's just, can we do it now? Is this a more cost-effective way to do it now? And the other project, I assume we'll be able to do the other project regardless. So I would stand in favor of the engineer's recommendation.
Additional comments? Councilmember Osk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think I'm understanding this, right? So there's state money that could be available for First Street, but we want to use federal dollars or hope that we get federal dollars, and the state money that we were going to spend on First Street could be spent on Gordon rather than waiting 3 years?
That's correct. So each year, the city of Willmar receives an allocation of what's referred to as state aid dollars. State aid dollars can only be used on state aid routes, which is like First Street, 19th, more of your high volume roadways. So that's the one funding mechanism that you have for all state aid routes within the community. First Street is a special case because it's actually classified as on the national highway system, which makes only First Street eligible for potential federal dollars. So what staff is suggesting is that after we've reviewed Gorton and see what kind of shape that's in the spring, we're recommending that we reserve the state dollars that we were going to use on First Street by essentially borrowing ahead from 2023, and in 2023 put those funds to use on Gorton in 2023.
Okay. My next question then is, have we applied for the federal dollars for First Street?
So one of the discussions that I've had with the district state aid engineer relative to First Street, as council knows, segments of that project have been done previously, but First Street in total, I forget the total number of miles, but it's a long length of 4-lane wide, enormous amount of pavement. And so what we've been discussing is utilizing and pursuing additional federal funds to complete a larger area of that project, so that we're not piecemealing things. And then when we come back to, the useful life of an overlay is 20 years, so somebody's going to have to deal with that again in the future, and try to make it better for them by doing what we do now. So,
Lastly, you said that it's not a guarantee, the federal funds. When would we find out, and then how quickly would we move after that?
So, well, through the federal government, there's a bunch of programs that are coming out. And so that's definitely a candidate project that we've, as staff, have identified to pursue with those funds. The federal funds for First Street, there is a guaranteed, if you will, amount, and I believe the amount he told me was between that $100,000 and $200,000 range, which really on a 4-lane highway doesn't get you excessively far. But there are other creative options that we would like to pursue about potentially bundling federal funds for that. So ultimately, staff is trying to find a efficient way to get that First Street overlaid without utilizing that state aid money because there's so many needs within the community.
Great. Well, thank you for answering all the questions, and thank you for being so aggressive about looking for ways to really stretch those dollars.
Absolutely.
Additional questions onto the First Street project? Okay, Councilmember Nelson.
Just one more. I know a couple of years ago at Public Works committee meeting, we had a conversation about with county roads and state aid roads and those types of things. And it seems to me we talked about, should we be trading some, or do we have the right ones? that we're getting, because of how the traffic has changed in Willmar, do we have the right streets getting the right funding, or do we need to lobby or do something about changing where we get our funds from for streets?
There's a lot in that question.
I know.
Just based on the fact that the way the state aid system works, and the way cities receive value, which corresponds to dollars, is streets with the higher traffic volumes generate the most needs. And so 50% of state aid funds that come into each community is based on needs, which is essentially your traffic volumes. The higher your traffic volumes, the higher your needs are. 50% is based on population. So really the only one that we can control is the needs piece of the puzzle. And we do that by designating state aid routes with the highest traffic volumes. The benefit of having First Street on the state aid system, as you all know, it's very high traffic volume. So regardless of whether or not you use state aid funds on it, you're still getting the needs based on that high traffic volume. And this year, I believe, starting, I can't remember exactly when, I just saw a note about this, but MnDOT typically counts all of our state aid streets within the community, and we'll be able to evaluate, based on those traffic counting data, what the traffic volumes are. And if we see something that is appears to have fallen significantly from previous counting cycles, which I believe was in 2019, 2020. Certainly as staff will flag that, and we'll need to come back before you for what's called a route redesignation. So yes, you're absolutely on track in terms of we want to make sure that our highest volume roads are designated as state aid streets.
Additional comments or questions? Council, what do you want, what are your wishes to do with First Street Northeast?
Are we looking for a motion?
Yes.
Okay. I would make a motion that we go with staff's recommendation to do Gorton instead of First Street.
So I think the motion would be to delay the First Street Northeast Business 71 project for this year.
There we go.
I'll second that.
Motion been made and seconded. Motion been made and seconded to delay the First Street Northeast Business 71 in this cycle. Additional comments or questions? Roll call.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
That resolution passes. Next, we are looking for a motion to award project number 2203-A to OMG Midwest, doing business as Minnesota Paving and Materials, in the amount of $1,325,894.92.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Next is a motion that we need to do to adopt an as-bid budget for project number 2203-A in the amount of $1,560,489.
So moved.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Next, looking for a motion to adopt an as-bid budget. Next is to adopt a resolution awarding project number 2204 to Dunick Incorporated in the amount of $528,442.72 and authorized signatures.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Oops, sorry, got off. Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Ask.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Next, we're looking for a motion to adopt an as-bid budget for project number 2204 in the amount of $663,701.
So move.
Second.
Motion been made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Nelson.
Aye.
Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, I believe that the third motion is, that is on the car report is in conjunction with Business 71. So did I hit all of them? I think that one had 3 because it had parking restrictions.
We just have parking restrictions on 19th Avenue. Is that one included with that first
That's the First Street project, right?
No.
No, it's 19th. Yep.
19th and Lakeland Drive?
Yep.
Okay, so looking for a motion to adopt a resolution approving parking restrictions on 19th Avenue and Lakeland Drive from First Street to Business 71 to Willmar Avenue.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Roll call.
Councilmember Osmus.
Aye.
Butterfield.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Osk.
Aye.
Davis.
Aye.
Plowman.
Aye.
Nelson.
Aye.
7 ayes, 0 nays.
Okay, then the only thing I have is how long are those bids good for?
Bids are good for 60 days from receipt of the bid.
And then do we have any idea if the federal dollars are going to be released within that amount of time? And
They will not.
They will not be
No, not within 60 days.
not within 60 days.
No.
So we'll have to be very careful on how we share that information with Dunix. Seeing that they were the low bid on that. I mean, they came in about 100,000 under bid, so we'll have to kind of, has this been talked about with Dunix yet?
Has not.
Okay, so we have to be careful how we address that, because I mean, we're getting favorable bids here, and I don't want to, we're going down a good path, and I don't want to have a bump in the road, because one of the concerns that I had heard from contractors is that we go through the work of preparing the bid, we make the bid, which costs us money, and then you go to award the bid and you don't. So, so we have to be pretty transparent in that discussion.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can have a conversation with them tomorrow. I mean, ultimately, the reason council took the action that they did this evening was because of the notice of the additional federal funds, and the way the plans have been set up are that they were bid, they comply with Minnesota standards for state funding, but there's another process associated with federal. So I can have that conversation with them. Understood.
Appreciate that.
Thanks, council.
Next, we have
Public Works update.
Public Works update.
Public Works.
Public Works update.
What did you say? Yeah.
Next, we have a update from the Public Works Department in regards to the storm that we had and the projects that you're working on. So, Mr.
Good
Manzer.
evening, Mayor and members of the council. I'll give you a little brief update of what we went through last week. As most of you know, I think it was the 11th, we had a significant rainstorm that came in the evening. I heard anywhere from 3.5 inches to over 5 inches that night. And we ended up having to do a lot of barricading of streets because the way the rain came so fast, our system can't handle it that fast. So we ended up barricading about 40 different intersections in town, which is really the normal that we do. It wasn't outside of what we normally, what I've seen in the past. It wasn't some of the areas that I thought we were going to have some issues. We didn't, it gets close and then it kind of settles down a little bit. But so we worked, we had, I think the first night I had 8 guys in, and we worked till about 11 p.m. that night. Wastewater had their whole crew in. They came in about 8 and they started monitoring wet wells. That I know some of them worked till 1 in the morning. One guy worked all night, and so they're monitoring wet wells for the lift stations and throughout town. Their average flow out there is about 4 million gallons a day, and they were up to 7.4 million after the rain. So that puts pressure on that plant at that time. So kind of reiterate the fact that we need to make sure our sump pumps are pumping outside and not in not in the drains, and I witnessed a home that a person called me on Friday, panic-stricken, thought they had sewage coming up in their house. Well, turned out that their sump pump was pumping in the laundry tub, which the laundry tub had plugged and pumped all the water all over their floor in their basement. And they didn't understand that you had to be outside, so I brought them the proper paperwork, and I said I'd check back with them in a couple weeks to get that corrected. So I can only imagine how many homes are doing that we've gone through and checked the homes, and but we have to stay on top of that. So then we got through that. By that next morning, we had crews come in at 5 and remove all the barricades. Everything was down. I don't know if anybody noticed, but Baker Field was flooded, and I mean, it was like a lake out there that night. And typically when I've seen it like that, it's several days before we see the grass in there again. And I went back to work at 5:30 that morning, and I could see the grass already. So that drainage improvement down there made a huge difference on that. And then we come back the next day and we throw a little wind action in there. I don't know what our winds got up to that night, but we had about 20 boulevard trees that blew apart or fell down, and some private trees fell on the roads that we had to clear out. So we had 12 people we wanted to get in that night. We went in at 7 o'clock and we worked till about 11 o'clock and that clearing. We still don't have everything picked up. I mean, we got the stuff off the road and it's a work in progress yet, but we're working through it, and then amongst trying to do other things that you got to do on a routine basis. So half-hour wind creates a couple weeks of work in a hurry, but I know the plant, they had to have guys late again that next night just because, you know, when you have that heavy rain, it takes days for everything to catch up. And I don't know if you've noticed down here, but the lake level came way up. We had to pull the docks out because the docks went underwater, and the path is underwater right now. It's the highest I've seen the lake for a long time. So that's kind of it in a nutshell. Everything was good. It went just as we planned. Nobody got hurt, and I really didn't field a lot of complaints, so to speak, a few, but generally I thought it went quite well. So I could entertain any questions if anybody has anything.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Manzer. Just a question. I know the county's posted a couple times asking people to turn in information if they've had damages. And so what do we do, or what can the city turn anything in as far as the damages that we've experienced on city property or public works, those types of things?
Yeah, so I know Judy reached out to all the staff, and we all checked our facilities for damage. And so we've reported to Judy what our damages are, and I think we're just moving forward from that. I think the wastewater had quite a bit of hail damage on the buildings out there. We didn't have damage on the hail and rain, but then the wind blew out the back windows of our new salt shed back there, so we're gonna have to get that repaired. So that was a heavy wind. I couldn't believe how hard that blew, but so.
Anything with streets that we can report?
I don't know. We talked about that conversation about there's some crack filler that let loose on First Street. Some of that that's happened before when we've had heavy rain. So I'm going to talk to Jared about that, and we're just going to kind of see what there would be. But generally speaking, the only damage that we had as far as public works was to our salt shed. I know the wastewater had some damage, and I don't know if it was. Well, I guess. Yeah, was there anything else that I missed?
Just the waste treatment plant had a little roof damage on a couple buildings.
And then we did have some damage to the city pool car, but that was from the wind on Sunday. It blew the dumpster across the parking lot into the side of the city pool car. So you'll see the pool car's got some dents in it, but Kyle's going to be getting that out for estimates. So, yeah.
Councilmember Davis.
I just want to say thank you to you and our staff for all the work you do for us. I mean, you put in a lot of hours and you do good work. Thank you.
Thank you. I can't say enough about the staff, not only with Public Works, but wastewater, PD. The dispatcher called me that one night. She goes, "Are you sick of hearing from me?" And I've never met these people face to face, but I feel like I know them because we talk a lot, so. But no, it takes everybody to work together, and it goes good. Just gotta have patience. That's all. You can't change Mother Nature. That's for sure.
Councilmember Plowman.
Yeah, just another thank you to all of the staff. I talked to somebody at the municipal utilities, also somebody with Candy High Power, and the way that everybody gets together, that all of the employees just kind of like rally together and
Yep.
and like it's go time, and they treat these projects not like it's work. They treat it like it's their community, like they're taking care of their community.
Yep.
That is what they're doing, and you know, and the issue's been raised before. I go back a few years to when we had those really bad storms and some problems at the lift stations. But, you know, there were, and it's really terrible when you hear of all the water damage that people get water in their basements and whatnot. One thing to just keep into perspective, because I've experienced it in my own life, if our power had gone down significantly, the damage would have been quantum times worse. And if you start talking about sewage backups, like actual sewage backups, like neighborhood-wide sewage backups, that ups the ante again. And so I think when we can avoid those types of catastrophic events because everybody's working together, as well as, you know, capital improvements, staying on top of our infrastructure. And we know that lift stations are millions of dollars now, and sometimes people question why we spend, you know, such crazy amounts of money on things that are seemingly insignificant. They're not insignificant. That's the infrastructure that it takes to keep our homes safe, especially during events like
Yeah.
this. So, thank you.
Yeah, you bet. Well, thank you. So now I'm going to pass the baton. I'm going to be Rob for a second. Oh, go ahead. I'm sorry.
We're not done yet.
Oh,
You
no,
don't get
we're
to
good.
jump that
We're
fast.
good.
You don't get to jump that fast.
Yeah.
I just want to also express my appreciation to you and your staff. I know I sent you an email. I think I sent you a couple emails last week thanking you for the work that you guys do. But I really also want to commend the council for the leadership that you took on making the flood insurance available to our residents. You know, the last time we had this, we didn't have that. We didn't have that as an option. We didn't have that our homeowners could buy flood insurance. And, you know, we took a lot of work. We took a lot of heat for making that decision. But our homeowners or our homeowners and businesses had that opportunity to buy that flood insurance. So that's work that we did ahead of time. And then also, I want to thank you and your staff, but also the council for the Baker upgrade of the Baker drainage system. You know, we increased all the size of that piping, reaching out to the creek. And had we not done that, you know, that's the comments that I heard when I got back to town on Friday is just, you know, we couldn't believe we had all this water sitting over at Baker and we had it over at the nursing home. And normally that took 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 days to go down. And the next morning we got up, it was gone.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that's the foresight that you guys all took and the foresight that you guys voted on to make happen. And so that's good work. And so there's proof right there that the decisions we're making are good decisions. And we just need to make more of them to continue that process. So a lot of good positive comments. So I really do appreciate your work you do. Councilmember O'Brien, and then we'll move to the next item.
Did you have many issues with residents pumping their sumps into any stormwater areas?
Well, most residents, you know, pump outside. Well, we hope that they pump outside, you know, and so we want the sump pumps in the stormwaters, whether it's in a tile or over the curb, you know, or in their backyard. But we don't want it in the sanitary sewer because that's what inundates that system out there. And if you remember, that's what happened to us way back. And the ironic thing is we had a staff meeting the day before that rain, and I had it with the wastewater and public works, and we talked about that event, like, oh, we don't ever want to see that again. All of a sudden it started to rain. Like, why do we even talk about it? So we should just leave it go. But no, as far as that, yeah, no, I think everything went really well, and residents were really receptive. I guess the only thing I would say is that for residents, when we don't have a street blocked, just to, if you drive through it, go through slow. That's the problem some people have, is they keep going too fast. And not only if it's hard in their vehicle, but they put a wake out, and if there's water going up to somebody's house, you're pushing out. So, but
yeah, I think the numbers that you shared with us, about a 3 million gallon increase. So that water is all infiltration. And 3 million is infiltration. And as you recall, I think the incident you're talking about was 10th and Candy when a citizen took the sanitary cover off. I think that's the one you're talking about.
Yeah.
When it flooded all those houses in that neighborhood, including Kennedy School.
Yeah, we don't want that again.
Yeah, you remember that day as well as I do, I think.
Yeah.
So, and the catastrophic thing that could have happened is that individual could have been killed.
Yeah, it's
Could
a
have been
dangerous, it could be a dangerous situation in an intersection that's flooded, especially if the manhole, because manholes do blow off. I mean, that's happened. We had to put a couple back on that night because the pressure of the water just blows them off, so.
And so you don't want the storm mixing with the sanitary. That's where the
Right,
problems come from.
exactly.
Thank you again for your staff doing a good job.
You bet, thank you.
Now you're on to
Okay.
Mr. Baumgartner.
Okay, so, about, I don't know, maybe it was a couple weeks ago, we met with Mr. Pepin and his staff and, to talk about a music festival at Robbins Island in this September the 10th. And I think I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn this over to Mr. Pepin and he can give you a little more detail on it. You can see on the car form that the city identified some potential costs that we would have to, that we tried to estimate what our cost would be to help this event be pulled off. And so we've presented those numbers there. Those are estimate numbers for the police department, public works, and then park and rec. So I think I'll just turn it over to Steve and then maybe you can just talk about it a little bit, Steve.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Steve Pepin, 2500 15th Street Southwest, Willmar, Minnesota.
Mike Bowman, outside of Willmar and Spicer.
We're going to do this together. Go ahead, Mike.
All right, first of all, Mr. Mayor, council members, other distinguished ladies and gentlemen in attendance today, we want to tell you that we appreciate the opportunity to appear before you to propose Pepfest 22 to be held at Robbins Island this year in September. And not only are we here to request your permission to hold this event there, but we'd also love to have your support. So with that being said, Steve, what is Pepfest?
Pepfest is a country festival featuring Minnesota's own Erin Grand. She got Female Vocalist of the Year 2 years in a row. She got a major Minnesota following. She's been signed by Sony in Nashville. And we also got George Burge. He's a country boy. There's a lot of country boys around here. He's gone viral on social media. He's got millions of followers. He's also been signed by Nashville by Sony.
Okay, and Erin Grand is actually from Lakeville, is that correct?
Yes, yes.
Okay. When is Pepfest planned this year?
Pepfest is September 10th at Robbins Island. Gates open up at 4 p.m. Acts performing between 6 and 9/10.
We did understand through our meeting with some city officials that all the parks close at 10 p.m. So we did plan to wrap this concert up by about 9 p.m. to stay within those ordinances. Why do you want to have Pepfest? What's your vision?
Sure. Pepfest is a 10-year dream of mine. In 2012, the reason why I opened up an establishment is I truly wanted to bring people together through having a festival. So it's about vision, dream, hope, and inspiration. It's what's needed in our community. It's what's needed in our nation. And nothing brings people together better than events.
Okay, trying to provide some hope and joy and inspiration to some of the people locally here, as obviously some people are going through tough times all around us. So we want to provide that opportunity to bring that here to Willmar, as opposed to people maybe always having to travel to the cities or beyond for those types of experiences. That being said, with planning and logistics, Steve and I will handle. It will be the contact people for the event, taking the lead in all logistics, the planning, and the execution. We will also have a large group of volunteers that will assist us with putting on the event, in addition to contracting out for some of the services that are vital to make sure this event goes off safely, soundly, and everybody has a great time. So that being said, Steve, can you tell us a little bit about the security firm that you've contracted?
Sure. I'm working with a friend of mine, Robert Smith. He owns RS Executive Protection. He's done WeFest. He's done the Pride Fest in the cities. He's worked with several Vikings, and we plan on hiring 30 security guards through him.
Yep, so he has 20 to 30 at least licensed security professionals to assist us with this event. And like Steve said, he's already worked WeFest and other events that are used to the large crowds and things of that nature. And obviously, they're licensed and insured. What do we have for parking and our shuttle situation?
When Rockin' Robins does their events, I know there's about 600 spots for them to park. We plan on just eliminating that. I think the other 7,500 people, I think they've gotten about 8,400 people. So about 7,500 people are taking bus shuttles in. I think it would do the police department a lot of help, as well as stop any potential bad things from happening, just eliminate all the parking and just work with Willmar Bus Service. I talked with Kubi over there. He's got 3 locations. He said that we probably should add a couple more. We also want to work with Riley's for out-of-town stuff to get some of the out-of-town people to come in.
And right along the same lines with parking and shuttles, tell us a little bit about our plans and thoughts for traffic control.
Obviously, the police department will assist us. We think that there should be a drop-off across the street from Robbins Island where people can get dropped off and then walk across. For the elderly and handicap, I own a Lakeland building where the Willmar area spas used to be. Used to be the John Deere dealership as well. We got about 100 spots over there, so we plan on having the bus service come there, pick up elderly or handicap and bring them there, but they can park at my building.
Just as a quick recap to all of that, the only parking taking place at Robbins Island would be for staff of the event and the production crew. Buses would circle in and out to drop people off. If somebody wanted to be dropped off at Robbins Island, we would hold that point across the street. And of course, handicap or elderly or any physically disabled or assisted people that needed transportation, we would have a location at Steve's building on Lakeland Avenue to transport them over, also through Willmar Bus. We've had a couple chances to be over at Robbins Island recently and experience some of the great improvements you guys have made to the buildings over there. And it's a great opportunity. We also want to recognize those are new buildings. We want to keep them in those shapes. So what do you have planned for a couple of those buildings that are at the island?
Starting at the top of the hill, we're going to use that for all our national acts, as well as their bands and their family and personal friends. The second one coming towards the 71, we're going to use that for the first responders and create some sort of hospitality, because we're hoping that we can turn this into somewhat of a 9/11 event as well and pay tribute to all the first responders. And then the last one closest to the road, we're going to have like a medical setup for any type of emergencies that we might have.
So those buildings would be off limits to the general concert goers. They would all be controlled access points, not only to preserve the conditions of the building, but also to help alleviate any concerns with overuse of the washrooms and toilet facilities, things like that, with an event this size. Moving on, permits and insurance, what do you have in those regards?
Sure. We got a liability insurance has been turned into the rec department. We will need a liquor license. We're not selling liquor. We just want to have a beer garden. I plan on opening up an establishment between now and September 10th. My backup plan, Willie's actually here. Spurs is going to be my backup plan, in which I'll take care of costs and we'll split profits.
Moving on to Soundstage and Lighting. How's this experience going to be something maybe new brought to Willmar that can really open up some eyes and wow some people?
Sure. In my opinion, and a lot of opinions of other, it's all about production. We partnered up with Mystique Sound, who did the MMA event that we were a part of, as well as the wrestling event we were a part of. They're the best of the best. They've done the Target Center, the Beach Boys, and Jay and I have created a really good relationship. He's been in business since 1994, and I'm grateful. Actually, a local guy, Mr. V, he'll put me in contact with him, and they do stuff together.
So trying to create more of a big concert feel here in Willmar to provide a little bit of a different experience. And then tell us a little bit about how you plan to promote this. So obviously, Rockin' Robins offers free concerts. They get 6,000 to 8,000 people there. This is a paid concert. What are your plans to be able to bring in those numbers?
Studio 38 is the studio that is over at the Lakeland building, and that's the company that is going to be putting it on, company owned by myself. We have a studio engineer over there, a studio videographer. We've been working on a bunch of stuff, just getting ready to get the green light from you guys. We're also working with Lunar Cycle Media, as well as Brandon Madden from Skin Tones. He's a national promoter out of the cities. And let's remember Sunshine Fest, guys, that was huge for our community to get people to draw into our community and spend money in our community. I plan on starting out small here with the 2 acts and then expanding this. The vision is not one and done. The vision is 20, 30 years from now and keep growing, similar to what We Fest did, and sooner or later we would have to move locations.
What are your plans for vendors at the site and also working with local and other business partners?
We want to give the local vendors the opportunity to work with us. If that's, that's first and foremost, keeping it local. But we also have some out-of-town vendors that want to get involved that I think this community would love to experience some of the joys that are outside of our community, bringing them to town.
Regarding the sanitation and fencing, if you take a look at the maps that we had provided there, we've been in contact with mini BIFs about the amount of mini BIFs that would be needed for crowds anywhere in the range of 6,000 to 10,000 people, and they have their recommendations. Our plan for mini BIFs would be along the lake. I don't know if it's the north direction, and then down along 71 and 23. So we're looking at probably 40 to 50 mini BIFs there to be able to handle the amount of people that are anticipated in being there. Regarding fencing, we did speak with Gary over at Public Works. Because this is a paid event, we didn't just want to have a small mesh fence where people can sit outside and enjoy the event while other people are 10 feet away who have paid for tickets. So it was suggested to us that we work with some local fencing companies to lease 8-foot fencing that they will install and then take down. If you look at the map as well, the red line is pretty much along 71 and 23 would shut off the front of Robbins Island. Vendors would also help close in the event throughout the side, and then a little bit of fencing leading up to the stage. We also talked about having a cutoff point back at the bridge on the backside, making sure that people aren't entering back there, so that one access point is up front. So that's how we would work with sanitation and fencing to cordon off this event as best we can. Tell us a little bit about your ideas for ticketing and admission, things like that.
For ticketing, we're working with Eventbrite. It's an online ticketing company. The nice thing about them is they have an app on their phone, on our phones, that my staff and I, as the people come through with their ticket on their phone, we can just scan them and send them right through.
Regarding the beer sales and IDs and things of that nature, we'll work closely with the police department and our trained staff that goes through the alcohol training to have there's 2 beer zones that are planned to be set up, which you can also see on the map that are highlighted in the blue ovals. At each beer garden will be a single line that has ID verification. There'll be a line that has ticket sales for beer, and then a line to actually get beer. And our policy will be that anybody inside of this area, inside of the concert, that is drinking beer, must have a wristband. So anybody planning on drinking beer has to get their ID. They got to be verified and have a wristband. That way, it's easy to patrol if you see people drinking in the crowd. If they don't have a wristband, they were not verified through ID. Which is a simple process of coming up and getting that done. So we are taking great lengths to make sure that that's done right, and the precautions are being taken that we're on point. That being said, there will be no in and out of the concert. Once you leave, your ticket is no longer valid to come back in, and make sure that things aren't happening in other parts of the island, and make sure that people aren't bringing other things back in that they shouldn't be. So we want this to be a controlled, safe atmosphere where people can have a lot of fun. Steve, anything else you want to add regarding the planning, logistics of the event in general?
Well, the last thing is the crowd control. Everybody's safety is our #1 priority. I know Chief Hansen and I have worked some of my other events, and we made sure that there was the right aisles and the right ways to get people away from harm if harm was to present itself.
So with that being said, we'd like to open it up to any questions that you guys have for us about the planning of this event or the concept of it.
Well, thank you for your presentation. Very thoughtful, very thought out, very concise as far as what you guys are looking to do. So thank you for that. I really do appreciate that. So, Council, any questions that you guys have? Council, we've got a lot of them. Councilmember Osmus, followed by O'Brien, followed by Davis, followed by Osk.
Okay. As you probably know, I coordinated Sunshine for many years. So my first thought was on the traffic control and the drop-off across the way. What I'm envisioning is I see people coming, really, how are they getting to know exactly that they can't go in if they want to drop a child off or a person off? How are we moving that traffic signage-wise, it's almost got to be before Puerto Rico, back by Puerto Rico, to get them onto the service drive. How are we stopping them from coming to the turn lane, other than blocking off the turn lane, going in? Then they'd have to go by. How are they knowing exactly that drop-off? And then what's happening to that traffic? Where are they dropping off on the other side?
That's a great question, Julie. Our plan of attack on all that is to work with the police department, work with different people on what to do there. Once we had the green light, so we don't really know, we don't have the answer to that yet.
Okay.
Ideally, the drop-off point on the other side is on the service road that runs right off of 71. I understand if you're coming in one direction, it's going to be a little tougher to get over there. Included with the ticket sales will be email addresses of everyone that buys tickets, and we will send out all this information to all the ticket goers at least.
Right.
We did think about letting it, them valet through kind of like the buses are going to, and then drop people off, but we're afraid of congestion right there as well.
Yep, I'm envisioning the only exit is going to be going past the hotel and then coming out on High Avenue, High. And then if there's a train,
Right.
for where I'm just seeing a lot of clog on that south side. Just
Yeah, and we're
wondering
open
what
to
your thought
any
process
other
was.
suggestions too on what would be better,
Yep.
So.
Okay.
Councilmember O'Brien.
Any thought about how to work with watercraft? You're going to get people coming in on watercraft. You're going to get people coming on the point. You're going to get people coming on the beach, and pontoons and boats. And how are you going to regulate that?
Is there any way to shut that down if we're renting out the Robbins Island by having that fenced off?
And it's public waters.
Sure.
You got two accesses.
Where else are they going to want?
All three. But that's something you should think about because you're going to get that.
They have to extend the fencing.
They just can't get.
Is the water's public, but when it comes to the land there, it's city, right?
Right.
So if we fence that off, I guess if they want to watch from the lake, we can't stop that.
Right.
Councilmember Davis.
Well, I'm looking at the fencing and I'm just wondering if there were some catastrophe or a storm or something, how are you going to get people off of the island quickly?
Sure, I think that we should have some mesh points or some points where there's opening, where there can be an opening, instead of just having complete all fencing, and we can put security there.
Work with the fencing company on that as well.
Councilmember Ross.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for working so hard on the plan. Thank you for having this vision and trying to bring it here to Willmar. I think it's great. I'm wondering, you mentioned sunshine earlier. My understanding is that, that sunshine came with quite significant kind of, emergency management, assessment analysis, risk analysis. And I think my question may be more for city staff. How deep into that process have we gone?
We haven't gotten that deep yet.
Okay.
It's been questioned, and so that was in just our first meeting.
How quickly can that be done?
I think that's a question for our fire chief and our police chief. How quickly they can get the emergency management stuff together.
I think together between the two of us and our departments, we can pull something together in an adequate amount of time.
I think that with, they've had a lot of practice with Rockin' Robins, so I think staff can pull any of that together quite quickly.
Okay.
I'm sorry, I had
Go ahead.
one other question too, or maybe a couple other questions. How many tickets do you hope to sell, plan to sell?
We talked to Chief Hansen, and he said that it's looking like 9,600 would be the max that we could possibly sell, and we're completely fine with that. The hope here isn't to, get 9,600 people. The hope is to just be successful. My staff and I even be willing to take a loss financially just to have the success come through, because we're thinking long term.
Okay, good. And then my last question, again, maybe more for city staff, when it comes to the kind of the different fees that have been scheduled for this. is this an unprecedented event? Is this fee structure based on things that have happened in the past? Where did those numbers come from?
Gary, you want to answer that? Thank you.
So from our aspect, we looked at what it takes us to set up the day before, and we kind of based a lot of it off of Rock and Robbins because of our experience there. And so we just kind of, it's basically manpower costs is what we have, and more detailed if there's some rental, some like cones and barricades, there's a rental that goes with that we didn't, because we don't know if he needs 100 cones or 200 or 500 or whatever. So, but I can't speak to Chief, but I think he probably had a number based on manpower and stuff. So I think it's just really based on what we think we need for manpower, and it's just an estimate, but I think it's pretty accurate as far as from what we'd have to do. So.
My last question, I promise it's my last one. Percentage of ticket sales to the city of Willmar. Has there been a percentage that's been negotiated, or where is that at?
Sure.
No.
I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead.
Rob and I are still discussing that and talking about it. What he does want is a security deposit put down. One thing that Mike and I and my team has talked about is giving a percentage towards if we ever get an amphitheater there. I want to be involved. My team and I want to be involved in that and help finance that.
Rob has requested that we, pending approval this evening, that we meet with the Parks and Rec Board on Wednesday afternoon if everything goes through tonight. So we also recognize that this many people in a small area also takes a little bit of a toll on the property as well. So any reclamation that needs done, hopefully that can be a part of that as well.
We'll still be also, there's still a lease agreement that still has to be drawn up. So all these particulars would be addressed in the lease agreement. And that would be presented to the council here at a later date.
Councilman Plowman, followed by Butterfield, followed by Nelson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thanks, gentlemen, for being here tonight, and thank you for presenting this this vision. There's a lot of different, these things are tried, right, all over the country, and a lot of times they're put together quite ad hoc, and it makes me happy to see such a well thought out plan even this early in the process, because I think that's the beginning point of doing it right, doing it safe, the whole proper planning, being able to incorporate all aspects of city management, the various departments and whatnot, as well as the council kind of taking some ownership with what could be a great community event. So I think this is a great launch point, and it encourages me to see the level of detail that's put into this. I think something that people still need to remember, at least I need to remember, that this is still, there's big dollars at stake here, and it's got to go right, because if it doesn't go right, it doesn't go right. And so there's a lot of motivation for things to go correctly, and then to see that, like what Sunshine, from where Sunshine started out, like when I can just very barely remember where it started out at Ridgewater, moving out to what it became. It became a huge thing where people came from states away, and I remember being there when there was 30,000 plus people, and that was a monster revenue generator. And you had all kinds of rumors that surrounded the Sunshine Festival and da-da-da-da, but I can say firsthand from volunteering there and from doing all this stuff, 90%, 95% of the rumors were not true. It was a definite benefit for the community, for the city of Willmar, for the region, and people, that became something that people looked forward to year after year. So it's exciting to see the opportunity for something like this that could not only be great for this year, but then looking forward towards the future. And again, I appreciate the level of detail and the foresight to address these issues with the city, various city departments regarding insurance, liability, safety, emergency protocols, stuff like that, because those are the things that, that we really gotta make sure we cross our T's and dot our I's, do correctly. And it sounds like there's great participation to this point from staff. So I hope that that can continue and this can move forward. Excited. Thanks.
Councilmember Butterfield.
I am just kind of curious on, for the local vendors outside of Willmar vendors, what are your feedback from our local people? Are they wanting more in or less room or what?
As far as our local vendors?
Yeah.
We haven't got to talk to a lot of them people yet. Some of the discussions, like Andrew was talking about, haven't happened until we know we have the green light. But the plan is they're the first ones to get a hold of. They're the first ones that get the first choice. If they want to get involved, great. If they don't, we have some other options.
Councilmember Nelson.
Thank you, Mayor Calvin. My question is back to the percentage of the ticket sales. If I heard correctly, and this is probably more for staff, you're still having a conversation about that. If we are covering our costs, are you thinking that could be negotiated as a donation, as was mentioned, that to work for something on Robbins Island? Or just curious about that percentage. I think that was a question that I was wondering about. If it's not a rental fee, then it sounds like a good option to come up with some sort of plan for that, because I think we are setting a precedence for if there's future events.
I believe in the event, in the Civic Arena, when they've had large events, that it's been a percentage of ticket sales has been recaptured on that also. So that's where that came from.
When you say recaptured, is that the rent then?
Well, the rent is only $300.
Okay.
And I don't think that really covers the cost here. And of course, these are just estimates of the cost. And so percentage of ticket sales also helps recover any other costs that are unexpected. So as far as the percentage, that's still under negotiation. We haven't even come up to that yet.
I can speak on that real quick. Rob and I talked about that, and it would be a percentage of the ticket sales, and then there'll be a cap. So there's a certain number that we get to, say it's $5,000, then it wouldn't be any more than that. I think where his mindset is, why not help create some kind of funding where we can use that stuff towards the rec department?
Yeah.
Thank you.
It's pretty typical in, because I can speak for the city of Spicer, our street dance. That is the way our street dances are held. Percentage of ticket sales is given back to the city, or I should say the commercial club withholds a percentage of the ticket sales for their ongoing purposes.
Okay. Thank you.
Anybody else have any comments or questions? Okay, I think you probably have a pen up there. Knowing you, Mr. Peppin. The items that I heard addressed were, we need to check on that drop-off site, and we need to get a plan put together with the police department on how would we handle somebody coming from out of town that's going to drop off attenders, and then they're going to go do something else. How you had proposed it was they'd be dropped off on the south side of 7123 and then crossed over. And the concern was about that traffic conflict that might establish from that. So that was one question. Another question that came up is how are we going to control the watercraft in the beach access? Watercraft and beach access is on public waters. And being on public waters, we really have no control over that. We have control over the land, but we don't have control over the public waters. So you'd probably need a water safety plan established. It's kind of what I was thinking I heard. Exit plan for storm or an emergency, unprecedented, not the slip and fall or the surfing or whatever, but something that was a catastrophic event. How would we shelter in place, or how would we have an exit plan for people to be removed out of the gated area into a safe environment? I think, we probably have done some emergency planning on that, and probably the chief has some answers on that, all right, the fire chief. Next is the emergency plan, having a detailed written emergency plan, similar to what happened at Sunshine. I think that's what Councilmember Davis had said. So if we can have an established written emergency management plan that the council can actually put their hands on and can see that, this is kind of, it would be confidential. It would not be something that would be public, but it'd be something that the council would feel comfortable that staff has an emergency operation written plan in place. Number of tickets was a question that was asked. How many tickets are you anticipating in selling? I think you said no more than 9,600, but maybe like you had said, some parameters around that. And that goes into the next one, which is percentage of ticket sales, dollars of ticket sales to the city. I like your plan of, maybe there's a group that's starting to work on the amphitheater, and maybe there's a partnership that gets developed with them to where you come along beside them and you say, okay, if we have X, we're going to give you Z. So not only the city piece, but also that amphitheater piece. The fee structure. When I look at the fee structure, we have a shelter closure, we have $300, but yet we're talking about 4 structures. And generally, it's $300 per structure, so that I think that fee structure has to be looked at and worked on as well. The lease agreement, Ms. Valiant talked about the lease agreement in that. Also, for staff's conversation, is this something that we should include Candidacy County Emergency Management for a review, seeing that they have all the information that happened before with Sunshine? I know that we've had some staff turnover internally since then, but maybe if just a courtesy look, or maybe we just contact them and they say, this is a City of Willmar thing, we don't have any interest, so just kick it back to the city. So I don't know, but I think we should have a review from Candidacy County Emergency Management. So those are the points that I had written down. I added the last one, which was kind of a dovetail on what Councilmember Davis had talked about. But I also wonder, as a council, if we should look at a special events permit ordinance, an ordinance addressing special events in its totality. And Mr. Pepin, you and your staff, Studio 38, could you give us a little bit of wiggle room here and give us till, if our staff can get it done the next meeting, June 6th, just give us some breathing room to let us digest some of this, give you guys a chance to get these answers. I think that would give us 3 weeks. We can do a review, and then if you're ready to come back at that time, but I think it'd be a little premature. I mean, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 things that I've written down. I don't know, I think you probably got all 10 of them, but, for us to act on that tonight with that many questions just seems a little bit, to me, troublesome as the mayor. We have so many open ends, and I mean, it's 3 weeks.
I completely understand that. However, with promotion, you only got so much time, and we have a lot of things locked in. I think a lot of these things are things that we can figure out whether right after we get the green light from you guys. 2 things real quick. There's 2 ways to do business. This is a $100,000 event. That's our budget. The whole thing's been paid for. So we don't have to make the money back. There's 2 ways to do business. You can hope that you're going to make money and then pay stuff off, or you can pay for it and then rock it. And like I said, we don't necessarily care if we break even. We just want to be successful. But you can't be successful without promotion. And I need to start promotion January. Every event that's happening throughout the Midwest, especially in our state, they've been promoting. I mean, Rock and Rob has been promoting already. Everybody's been promoting already, and I'm not. We've been waiting for this day for a few months now, working with Rob and city staff. So we were hoping to walk out of here with a green light today, but I do respect your concerns.
Yeah, I guess I just don't know where council's at. So Councilmember Nelson, follow up that.
I guess that's a question for staff with what's a green light? If we give a green light to working forward with this, when would we be prepared to sign a document? I'm trying to figure out both sides here in that, with that. What would staff like to do?
City Attorney Scott.
Thank you, Mayor, Councilmember Nelson, members of the council. So I talked to Rob last week, first time that I was kind of brought up to speed about the discussions, and it sounds like Rob has had good discussions with your group. Clearly, there's a lot of work here. There's a lot of issues that need to be pulled together, that need to be addressed in I'm going to call it a facility use agreement or a license agreement for this event. Certainly, I could take direction from the council tonight if you are supportive of the concept and want us to start working on it. But there's a lot of work yet to do, coordinating first with city staff just to make sure we've covered all the city issues, and then inevitably coordinating with the event organizers before we're going to have an agreement that's in final form that will come back to council for a formal approval. So I think from my perspective, just some policy direction from the council that yes, the council is interested in supporting this event and they want our office to really dive into this and start drafting the documents that need to be drafted would be about as much as I could ask for tonight. With the formal approval of any agreements coming forward, I don't think it'll be ready on June 6th, but we will work as fast as we can to get everything drafted and then reviewed and in a form that works for both parties as soon as we can this summer.
Yeah, so I'm not hearing reservations from the council. I'm just hearing that, we've got a lot of questions here.
Sure.
And I mean, we have to have answers to these questions. I mean, I don't think I'm hearing anybody saying, get out of town. I don't think anybody's saying that. I think we're just saying, we need to digest this. We got this on Thursday afternoon.
I understand.
And you've been working on it, like you said, since January. So, I mean, you're 5 months ahead of us. And, and I know you've had this in the plan because, Mr. Pepin, you've talked to me about this a couple of years ago, that you wanted to do something like this. So this has been a dream of yours for a long time. You just didn't fall out of bed on Wednesday and meet with staff and bring it on Thursday, right?
Yes, sir.
You've been talking about this for a long time. So, yeah. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I feel like it would be appropriate to offer up a motion that would have some contingencies in it. And the reason for that is, it would give the event promoter a level of comfort at which they could continue proceeding with their plans and start going down the list of things. But then B, it would give our staff and our legal team and all of the associated people like 3 weeks jump on. So, okay, now by the time we get to June 6th, there's been a whole bunch of work that's taken place. Plus, they've had the level of comfort that they do have the support of our council. And I think it's just pragmatically speaking, I think they fully understand that if there was some red flag that Chief Hansen or Chief Felt raises regarding security and they go, no, we're not, we're not prepared to do that. We can't do that. And if it's a red flag raised by our staff, I think they understand the fact that that will be a big thing to us. That will be a glaring thing to us. I think that's common sense. And I believe that that's kind of a mutually understood thing. So I would believe that it would be somewhat beneficial and give everybody the advantage of time to at least get that ball rolling as much as possible here so that they can keep doing their work, our staff can be doing their work, and we don't hinder the possible success that this may have, but we can still achieve everything that we need at the same time in terms of assurances.
Yeah, so would you be willing to offer a motion to have the city attorney work on lease language and have staff work on addressing the 10 items that were addressed?
Yes, I would include that in my motion to approve Pepfest Music Festival 2022 to be held at Robbins Island September 10th, 2022, pending the lease agreement approval as well as the items noted by Mr. Mayor.
I'll second that motion.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. So then we would not be giving green light approval tonight. We're giving the green light approval pending our staff's input. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Councilmember Osmus.
Oh, if I may, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah.
With the added direction from the council giving staff the authority to begin all of this work, because I believe there's probably some extensive legal stuff that needs to happen. And so with that direction given, now we have some skin in the game, so to speak. We're vested as a city, as a community, and that gives some assurances to the promoter as well.
Quick question.
Are you good? Are you good with the motion on the table?
I'm good with the motion, Mayor. Thank you.
Okay, council, additional comments or questions? Councilman Rasmus.
I just wanted to put it into perspective with the preparations and what went into the development of Rock and Robbins. So how soon in advance, I don't know if anybody's going to know that, how soon in advance did we start with that process? And, because really, in my understanding here, we're probably talking about possibly 3,000 to 4,000 more people. But then we're not dealing with the cars in the park. We didn't have the shelter rentals. That's not a big deal as far as safety and security. But as far as all the other plans, emergency management, law enforcement, public works involvement, other city staff, and any kind of lease agreements, what did we have in place before Rock and Robbins, and how would that be different from this event?
Well, the difference I see at this event is this is a paid event.
Sure.
And so the difference is not in the attendees or is not so much in the lease, other than the parameters that they've stipulated into the lease, because that was a free event. And so the promotion, when you say you're going to do something free, the promotion of that is show up, right?
Sure.
Where the promotion of selling tickets is get out in front, get the tickets sold, get revenue coming in. So that's the paradigm difference. The paradigm difference is that, and Chief, you're probably the only one that was here at the time, but I'm thinking they maybe had about a 3-month lead, 2 to 3 month lead.
I'd say that would be correct.
Yeah, and when they came to us the first time with the concept. And I mean, I got hit pretty flat-footed. I think most of the council got hit flat-footed on that, but that was coming. We all supported it. So I think there's framework in place. I
Right.
agree with you. But, so I don't think this is going to be, the stipulations that they're putting on it is what's going to make it more cumbersome for Mr. Scott's office, I would say. So, like the revenue share and the ticket sales and that type of
Okay.
stuff. Mr. Scott.
Thank you, Mayor. My comment is based on my conversation with Rob and Leslie tonight. There are a number of items yet to be definitively worked out.
Right.
Not to mention the issues that council raised tonight. Those are all issues. There's probably others that I haven't even thought of once we get into this. But we will take, if this motion passes, we will take the direction to roll up our sleeves and start working on this right away and get something hopefully worked out, obviously, on the city side first, then with the event coordinator, and brought back to council for approval as soon as we can.
Okay. Continue.
Okay. And from a business perspective, I'm just thinking, how are you still going to go, how are you going to be able to promote this 3 weeks difference? To promote, hoping that you're going to be able to meet or have the answers to all of the issues or the problems, and hopefully you can, obviously. We want this to be a success. But yeah, I'm just trying to think, okay, then you've started ticket sales. How would you put the brakes on if there was a huge snag? If we hadn't got the attorneys and the lease agreement and everything really solidified?
So what I'm hearing is, would it be no green light legally, but would we be able to promote on one side? The other side is don't promote, wait until June 6th, get the approval, then promote?
Promote at our own risk is the question.
Right. They can always be canceled.
We'll ask our city attorney to answer that question.
Well, I can't legally advise the event organizers on when they can start promoting, but what I can say, I mean, there would be different elements here involved in terms of just raising awareness and making people aware of there's an event coming up versus actually marketing and accepting money in exchange for tickets to the event. So I will leave it to the event organizers to make their own plans, but I mean, those are some of the issues I see.
I guess I was looking for So to the point of Councilmember Osmus's questions, do you see anything, I guess I didn't frame it correctly, but do you see anything that we've addressed tonight that we're not going to be able to get over the hill on?
No, I don't think so. The city owns this wonderful park, and as part of your, acting in your proprietary interest, if there's a neat community event out there that you're interested in supporting and you want to make your park available for it, we'll make it work.
Okay. Councilmember Osk.
I'm struggling with the motion at the table around the word approve. Because of all of the issues that we've discussed, Attorney Scott says he's got issues that he hasn't even mentioned tonight and more that he assumes he will find. It seems like it doesn't flow through the normal process. Parks and Rec Board hasn't met on this yet. That's going to happen after we approve it. That seems strange to me. I'm in favor of the event. I'm wondering why we need a motion that says that we're approving something with all of these questions out there when we can't just walk away with what seems to be the consensus of the folks at the table that we're hoping this happens. City staff's going to work with you. I'm struggling with the word approve.
Councilmember Plowman, speak to the question of approve.
Yes, Mr. Mayor, and thank you. To address the issue of the intent of my motion, the word approve or the verbiage approve was included in there not only to give the psychological benefit of the word approve, but also as means to solidify the council's intent to direct staff to work within the issue. So in other words, the intent of the motion was to approve that staff be spending the money and the time moving forward with this, because with multiple departments spending many hours on this, time will be spent, therefore money will be spent, and I believe that's probably worth formally approving.
I'd say, can I comment to? Yeah, thank you, Mr.
But not comment to what he said, but
Sure.
comment to the concern of the
Yes.
approve.
Yes. I would
So
find
it's not a debate between two people, it's a debate to the council.
correct.
Right.
Thank you. I would find myself being fully able to vote for a motion that instructed our staff to work towards these goals. I don't know that I can vote for a motion that approves the event with the current questions that are at the table. I would sure hope we could get answers to those where I can vote for that on June 6th.
Okay. Additional comments? Councilmember Osmus.
Can we hear what the motion is, please? Exactly.
Ms. Thompson?
Try. Mayor, members of the council, this will not be verbatim, I'm sure, but I made some notes, and I have the motion as to approve Pepfest at Robbins Island. There may have been a date mentioned.
No, there was no date.
No date. Approve Pepfest as proposed at Robbins Island, pending entry into a lease agreement and making satisfactory arrangements of the issues noted by Mayor Calvin in this meeting, and to direct staff and legal counsel to begin work on this project.
So do you want to stand by the motion?
I will stand by my motion, yep.
Okay. Official comments? Councilmember Davis.
Personally, I think the event sounds great. I mean, I love community events. I'm not comfortable with all of the questions we have in approving it that way. I would approve staff looking into those issues, but I just feel like I can't approve the event until I have all that stuff satisfied in my head.
Additional comments or questions? Councilmember Butterfield.
My understanding is we're not approving the event, we're approving staff to work with
That's not what the
Steve
motion
Peppin.
says, though.
That's not the motion.
The motion says to approve the event. That's what the motion.
Can you reread that again once, please?
What are you looking for? Oh, I thought you asked a question.
So this is it.
Contingencies are the. Which one?
Okay, sorry, Mayor, members of the council, I have at least the first part in writing apparently before me, which was to approve the Pepfest Musical Festival 2022 to be held at Robbins Island at September 10th, 2022, pending approval of the lease agreement. Making satisfactory arrangements to address the issues identified by Mayor Calvin and directing staff and legal counsel to start work on this project.
Yeah, so they just said, we're approving it. If the agreement doesn't come through, then it's not gonna go through. If they sign the agreement, then we're good to go. If they'll have everything worked out on.
Well, the lease agreement would still have to come back to council.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I understand where you're trying to get to.
Yeah, the last thing I want to do is cause any, this to go negative.
Right, I would like to see this come out 7-0.
It is my daughter's birthday on June 6th.
Yeah, my wedding anniversary too.
Yeah.
So we want to be done early that night. I really want this to come out, you know. the
If I can
council's all
help with
behind.
this, if it's gonna, I don't want this to be a split decision. I would rather see everybody involved.
Sure.
If it means holding off, we can hold off. I just know that when it comes to promotion, I'm way behind.
Right. Councilmember Plowman.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would be open to a friendly amendment if that friendly amendment could maintain the bulk of the content of the original motion. I think that I think we're getting caught up in technicalities here because there still is an approval process that has to take place after all the planning takes place and after all of the stipulations have been met. Even if those stipulations are all met, it still has to come back to the council again for approval. So it's not just meet these stipulations and it's going to happen by de facto. It's meet these stipulations and then it comes back to us again. Okay, they met the stipulations. Do you green light it? And so I feel like that's our firewall in terms of ensuring that our questions are answered, that our concerns are heard, and but again, I would hate for this to get caught up in a technicality because I feel like we're all feeling positive about it. So with that said, I would be open to a friendly amendment as long as it maintained the bulk substance of the motion.
Would you be open to an amended motion that stated that the council is in support of Pepfest 2022 and directs staff to work on the lease agreements and the items identified by the mayor?
I think Robert had a suggestion.
May I follow that with a question? In terms of direct towards Mr. Scott, does that change legally? Does that change anything by removing the council approves and inserting the council supports?
Mayor, Councilmember Plowman, members of the council know that was actually going to be very close to what I was going to offer as a friendly suggestion to the council, having listened to the discussion and what was kind of a hang up for some people. And I think legally it's very close, if not the same. You wind up in the same place, which is you're on record as supporting this proposal, but there's work to be done, and the final approval of the document that will make it happen is still to come.
Okay, thank you. The motioner would be open to a friendly amendment of that nature.
I'll agree with the friendly amendment.
So on a friendly amendment, they don't have to take a vote.
If the maker of the motion and the seconder of the motion both agree to it as restated, then I think you're fine to proceed.
And we now have it written down.
We have it, yes.
Okay, please reread the motion.
That the city council supports the proposed Pepfest Music Festival 2022 to be held at Robbins Island on September 10th, 2022. Pending approval of the use agreement and direct staff and legal counsel to begin work on the agreement.
A motion or a second are in favor, or in support of that motion. Additional discussion to the friendly amended motion. This is a simple motion, correct?
Correct.
Because we're not spending any money or receiving money at this point. Okay, so, the motion was made and seconded. I see no additional discussion. All in favor of the motion as presented signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion carries. That's where I was hoping we were going to get. 'Cause I wanted to see everything going positive here, so.
Perfect.
Thanks for understanding that sometimes making sausage isn't fun to watch, so, but the sausage was made, so.
That's good. Real quick, I just want to thank the rec department, all the departments and the city workers. Appreciate it. And one shout out, Willmar Baseball 11U is dominating, so.
They had a pretty good win.
Yeah.
So came from behind the last two games. So
Yep.
good work.
Nice.
You bet. Next, we have consideration of staff to draft an RFP and form a selection committee for high-speed internet access. Mr. Walker.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. So I guess it was April 4th that I brought a proposal to you all that included a letter of intent from Vibrant as with the broadband provider for the Meeker Co-op. You guys directed me to look more into the details of the LOI and putting together a contract to bring fiber to the home. I guess further in the fiber to the home project in the city of Willmar. And so recently after that meeting, there was an onslaught of interest from a lot of internet service providers in town. Suddenly people really wanted to talk about it, even though I talked to them earlier in the year. And so,
So you're saying when you flash $1 million, people listen?
oh man, I became the pretty girl at the dance, man. It was interesting. And so certainly, from there, it was just constant conversations with multiple ISPs, constant conversations with the attorneys. And they kind of advised that there was this one pesky statute that I had to be very careful about. And I think kind of how the LOI was drafted, that it could have been misinterpreted or would have essentially been a business subsidy, or it could have been a grant of some sorts, and that we were running into a clause that it would be intended to compete with existing facilities. And so I think as a way to kind of work around that, talking with the attorneys, is that it would probably be best if staff was to work with the attorneys and draft an RFP. That way, this would be a fair opportunity for all ISPs, and whoever we were to work with, and whatever we were to come up with would essentially be a public-private partnership that everyone had an opportunity at, and that we were able to kind of have more control on the back end. I think one of the things that I learned in the process was all of a sudden everybody had fiber in town. It was just a matter of, you got to know the right person. There's this guy down the street. You knock on the door 3 times. He can get you fiber, apparently. But if you don't know that guy, then you're out of luck. And so from there, I think one of the things that became key, though, in like a lot of my conversations with the multiple ISPs, was that symmetrical high-speed service is not a thing in the city of Willmar for residents. And I think that's the thing. So is there fiber in town? Is there fiber present at new greenfield developments or newer developments in town? True. Is their service caught up to what it should be for the high-speed symmetrical internet? No. And so the existence of fiber does not guarantee that. And so by going the RFP route, we will be able to make one of the clauses that we will mandate it is symmetrical high-speed internet to work with us in this project. That will be a part of the process. And so along with drafting this RFP, we would like to put together a 7-member selection committee to go with drafting this RFP. So Yes, that's kind of the overview, and I guess like my experience over like the past six weeks or so, which I think was drastically different from just kind of the calls and phone call conversations I was having earlier in the year. So with that, any questions?
So staff is requesting that they draft an RFP to provide high-speed internet in Willmar and form a 7-member review committee for the selection of the provider, I'm assuming, correct?
Yep, correct.
Okay. Council, what are your
I'll
wishes?
make that motion.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Questions? Who's going to establish the 7-member committee?
So I'll probably work with City Administrator Leslie, Ms. Valiant. And so I guess we kind of had an idea, probably several staff members, probably several council members, and then probably a person or two from the public. I think more like experts in the field. I think just off the top of my head, maybe a person or two from the joint city-county broadband commission, whatever they're named.
Okay. I would like to see at least 2 council members on that. And I don't know what council feels about that, but we have 2 council members that are willing to serve. So, question or?
No, I'm signifying if that were to be the case, if you'd like counselors, I would be willing and able to be a part of that.
I would be too.
Okay. So we have 2 council members that you should reach out to.
Certainly.
So Councilmember Plowman and Councilmember Butterfield. So I don't think we need that in the motion. I don't think.
Yeah, that was kind of that was council was not going to be left out.
Well, it's good to address it on the front side rather than like the comp plan. I don't know if there's council representation on the comp plan. So that was established by the planning department. So anyways, okay, we got a motion that's made and seconded. Additional discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, that motion does carry. Go forth and do good work. Next, we have consideration of members for the mayor's task force. Saw it here. Someplace. Thank you. So who's taking this? So for your consideration, we have submitted 20 names to you for members of the Mayor's Housing Task Force, and we're looking for approval of those names. Staff will be adding, through the staff side, we'll be adding John Herron from Municipal Utilities. So looking for a motion to approve the list as presented.
So moved.
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Discussion. Councilmember Butterfield.
How come we don't have a mortgage broker on here?
We had got up to 20, and Ms. Valiant called me and said, she said, you said you wanted between 15 and 16. We're currently at 20. Do you want me to keep going? And I said, no. So that's the reason why. And the reason that we have we had 3 builders come to us right away. We had another builder that had expressed an interest, but we already had 3 builders, so that's why those the 3 that came to us first are the 3 that we move forward. So that's the reason for that. Because our committee was getting, we thought, maybe a little bit larger than was going to be manageable. I mean, we certainly could consider that, and Ms. Valiant could reach out if you wanted to do that, but I think this is a pretty extensive list. So, additional comments or questions? Councilmember Nelson.
And just a comment, the Realtors Association provides a monthly information with that. I don't see her name on the list. She's been serving on the Vision 2040 Housing Task Force, but that information goes out, I think, every month. And so you do have someone from the a realtor there that could provide that, and I think can provide also some information regarding the mortgage side of things too. So
Sure. Ms. Bengston had mentioned that when I spoke with her, that she would be bringing that report to me.
yes, sounds good.
Additional comments or questions? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? That motion does carry. Thank you. Our first meeting is Thursday at the fire station at 11:30. And then at that meeting, we'll be setting our future dates. The plan is to meet for approximately 3 months, depending upon how our workload goes, and meeting every 2 to 3 weeks is kind of, and then we hope to have a report back to the council no later than September, October, probably at the drop dead latest time, but we hope to have a report back to you by September.
Thursday, the 19th?
Thursday, the 19th is the first meeting at the fire station at 11:30. Community Pride announcements. Again, just a reminder to the council, we have our future street projects tour tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and meet out at the Public Works Garage, and they will be stopping along the route, and there is the tour route. I will not be attending. I have an event that is going to take me out of town for a family commitment. So, but council, you're encouraged to attend that. This is also EMS week, and so remember to support your local ambulance service. They do good work, and they have an open house tomorrow evening down at Centric Care Health, down at the ambulance garage. And also it's Law Enforcement Memorial Week. I think I got that correct, right?
Correct. It just, yesterday was Law Enforcement Memorial Day that rounded up.
Oh, so the week was last week?
It was last week.
Last week. So Law Enforcement Memorial Day was yesterday. And so thank you to our law enforcement and all the work that you guys do. I know Chief Felt, you're really involved in that Law Enforcement Memorial Association. And I'd be remiss if I did not mention Mr. Ryan Erickson losing his life tragically on Thursday night in that storm. A real sad event, a line of duty death right here in Candiota County. For those of you that knew Ryan, he was a tremendous man, did a lot for his community, did a lot for the fire service. He's going to be greatly be missed. And shout out to Matt Graves, our deputy chief for the fire department. I believe he attended with the body down to St. Paul, and he's been coordinating all those events. So Mr. Graves has been very involved in that process. And the funeral will be Friday, 1:30, I think, at the Refuge. Is that correct? Yes. Okay. I should have written that down. And I also want to give a shout out. Oh, he left. Willard. The event on Saturday, Councilmember Davis and I were there, I was there for about 3 hours. I think you were still there when I left. That was a fabulous event. I think that's probably the best Main Street Willmar event that we've had. It's been the highest attended, I think. Of all the events that I attended, that was the highest attended. And just the diversity and the dancing and all of the good work that took place there really was a good event for Main Street. And of course, Willard will be missed because he's accepted a fellowship down in Arizona. So he'll be leaving us. I can't remember what that date is, but May 27th, he'll be leaving us. So this was his last council meeting. We probably should have given him a pat on the back before he left. Come back, Willard. Anyways, so, and then again, Public Works Day at the shop on Thursday, I believe, starting at 4 to 6. So Public Works event day. So that day as well. So a lot of good things happening. And then also, I just want to make sure that everybody is aware that filings open tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. And for the city, the mayor's position is opening. And then each council member, each council ward has an opening. So all 4 wards have an opening, along with the mayor's office are up for election. And so a candidate of office can be filed with the city clerk's office. And that will run through Thursday, May 31st, and that goes till 5 p.m. So city offices normally close at 4:30. We'll have 2 staff members there until 5 o'clock, till the end of closing, for those of you that are interested. Again, I've offered many times, if anybody has questions about the mayor's position and wants to meet, I think at this point, I met with 7 or 8 people at this point. So there's a lot of interest out there and people that are interested in running for the position. So we'll just have to see who files. So with that, council members, anybody have anything? Councilmember O'Brien.
I'd just like to mention on Saturday, we had an opportunity to celebrate former Rick James, police officer of Willmar. And we got a chance to meet with the family and celebrate his time as a police officer and as a human being. I spent a lot of time with him on my job because he was a lot to do with fishing. So it was really a good time there, and a lot of the old timers were there.
Yeah, I heard it was pretty well attended by the old timers.
Yes.
Yep. And Chief Felt, thank you for attending that. I heard some very positive comments about you at the funeral. So I'm not sure, but you always represent your department well, but also more importantly, the city well. So thank you for what you do. We do appreciate you. So, okay, with that, we're going to go into closed session. So the city of Willmar is going to go in closed session pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 13. I'm sorry, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. We're going to go into recess.
What?
I can do that or I can't?
You can recess.
Okay. Well, you did the eyebrow roll.
Oh, no, I.
Session, and we are in open session. The council is going to go into closed session and will take no action after they come out other than to adjourn the meeting. So at this point, the agenda item is to close the meeting pursuant to Minnesota State Statute 13D.05, sub 3C, to determine the asking price and/or develop or consider offers or counteroffers for the sale of city-owned real property. We are now in closed session. I'll take a motion to go into closed session.
So, second.
Motion been made